So you're ready to pull the trigger on some Overfenders or a wide body kit for your car. Well, first of all, congratulations. And second of all, before you decide to take the closest angle grinder you can find to your quarter panels, let's just go through, break down some of the things you might want to know and put together a quick guide for installing Overfenders on your car. Real quick, before we go ahead and jump right into this video, if you are in need of some new wheels, tires, or suspension to go with that fresh new body kit, make sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. It's literally what we do. It's kind of in our name. It's kind of a thing. Anyway, first things first, are you sure you want to do this? Not sure if you know this, but this is going to be a pretty irreversible thing that you are about to do to your car. So, sound good? Good to go? Thought so. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is pick out which kit you are going to want to go with, obviously. If you go browsing around the internet right now, you find all sorts of different Overfender or wide body kits for pretty much any car imaginable. And the prices can range anywhere from like a couple $100s upward to the $4 or $5 or tens of thousands of dollars. The biggest thing here is that you're typically going to get what you pay for when it comes to the overall quality and fit of these kits. And that is going to be the biggest determining factor as to whether or not you're gonna have a good time with this process, or you're gonna run in and fight everything along every step of the way. Obviously, we all know the big names in the industry: Pandem, Rocket Bunny, Liberty Walk, Varus, etc. And you probably also know that you can get very similar versions of those kits, but for like a lot less. Now, I'm not saying that every kit that isn't one of those big brands is going to be a replica kit or isn't going to fit well, because that's just really not the case. There are a lot of smaller brands out there that make original kits for these cars that fit really, really well. But general rule of thumb, you're going to get what you pay for. Best thing to do here is find some people who are or have ran the kit that you're looking at, reach out to them, ask them how the kit fits, how the install went, and if they would recommend it. 9 times out of 10, they'll have no problem giving you some insight into how everything went for them. Which brings us to the next fork in the road. Is this something that you're going to tackle by yourself, or are you going to pay a shop to do it? This is important, especially if you go with one of those, lower tier body kits, because that means you're going to have to do all the work that it needs to make it fit properly, or you're going to have to pay someone else to do it. And typically, that kind of work isn't the cheapest. So, really got to use your best judgment here. If this is something you're going to tackle yourself or do with a couple of friends, do your research. I know I sound like a broken record at this point, just saying go do your research, but even just looking at a few forums or watching a couple videos on something you're about to do for the first time can help tremendously. It might even give you a little heads up into some things about your car specifically that might be a little different from something else, and then you can be prepared for it so it doesn't take you off guard when you're halfway through the process. Then you just end up never finishing it. For instance, on my RX-8 we just did, it was nice to know ahead of time about how much of the rear fenders we were going to actually have to cut out, so we didn't accidentally cut too much or leave too much on there, and that we were also going to have to watch out for the headlight brackets up front because it causes some issues with the mounting hardware. So what else are you going to need to get the job done if you're going to do this by yourself? It's a great question. Glad you asked. Here's a short list of things that you're going to need to make sure you have handy to get this done properly. Masking tape being number one, preferably the blue stuff. The wider, the better. An angle grinder with multiple cutoff wheels and flapper discs, a Sharpie, a welder, some sort of sealant like a silicone, RTV, or bed liner, a drill, Cleco fasteners, and if you're using riv nuts, you're going to need the riv nut tool as well to actually get them installed. And then of course, your general hand tools, screwdriver, sockets, all that sort of stuff. Getting started, you're going to want to mock everything up. Lay down some masking tape that is larger than the area that the kit covers. This way, when you mock it up, you'll save your paint from scuffs and scratches of moving the new piece around, make sure it lines up, and then make sure that everything fits the way you would like it to. And if needed, cut some stuff away, sand areas that are needed until everything fits snug. Next, either you can tape it up or use some help from a friend to hold the piece in place while you trace around the area of the Overfenders with a Sharpie to give you the outline on the masking tape. This will give you a reference to create your cut line as to where the actual outside of the panel is going to sit. Now, start more conservative. You can always cut off more if needed. Once you get your outline drawn and you're happy with everything, triple checked it, it's time to start cutting. Now, obviously, this is going to be the scariest part of the entire process. Make sure you first removed any fender liners or any other pieces that might get in the way so you don't accidentally cut them. Start off by cutting on the inside of your cut line. Like I said, you can always shape it, cut out more later if needed, and make it look nice and neat. Also, make sure not to cut too deep, especially in the rear, because you're going to need that inner part of the fender wall to remain so you can create a new seal and fender wall. Once you make your initial cuts, make sure you you clean it up a bit. There are no jagged edges, no bits of metal hanging around, and this is what you can use your flapper disc for, really clean it up. It works great for that kind of thing. Once you're happy with your cuts, it never hurts to do a quick check of your wheel fitment. Cycle the suspension with the wheel on it, make sure that there's enough room for it to travel all the way, and also kind of get in there, turn the wheels, make sure nothing hits, all that sort of good stuff. Make sure you're all good with what you're going to want before you seal it all back up, the rears specifically. Not only does that inner fender well keep dirt and moisture and all that other bad stuff out of the inside of your car, but it also does provide a structure to the car itself. And if you just leave it, it can cause you a lot of issues down the road. The most common method here is to cut little finger slits into that fender wall that is left, and then using a hammer, pound them outwards and upwards to make that new wall. You're going to want to take a wire brush, remove any paint from the edge of the outside fender and the coating from that inner fender wall, and create a clean area to weld together. Weld your new tabs to the outside of the fender. Take your time, make sure you don't overheat the area because it's really prone to warping and all that kind of stuff. It's not that great. If needed, use some scrap pieces of sheet metal to weld in areas that might be any gaps. Really just get it all sealed up so you can't see anything on the inside. Once everything's cleaned up from welding, use some sort of sealant to make sure that there's no possible way for any moisture or anything else to get inside. So there, your hard part is done. Probably the most tedious part of the entire process, probably the part that takes the longest. And all that's left is to throw the kit back on, get everything lined up again, start drilling mounting holes, and then add your hardware. Take time with this as well. It is also an important part. This is going to be what's holding your kit on, and you don't obviously want it to be crooked or out of place. Clecos are a great way to make sure everything stays in place. Install your mounting hardware, bolt everything on, and you're pretty much good to go. Now, for the most part, like I said, you're done. That's it. The only thing that's left is to make sure that your new wheels are going to fit without any rubbing. It's not really uncommon that you might have to trim some of the inside of the kit down or cut out some extra room in there to make sure that, if you're running a more aggressive wheel tire setup or if you're on air suspension, that everything, comes down nice and neat and you're not bashing wheels into your brand new body kit. And then it's off to paint or wrap, whatever you might choose. My biggest tips here are basically use the correct tools for the job. It's going to save you a lot of time and you're going to have a cleaner outcome. Take your time. Do not rush this process. I know it's super exciting to see the transformations. Sometimes you just want to get it done out of the way. Don't be afraid to ask someone for help if needed. Throw some cash to someone you know to help come out with the cutting or welding if you're not comfortable with doing it yourself. Your mind will be just so much more at ease knowing that something is done correctly and it's not going to cause issues down the road. And of course, do your research ahead of time. So those are some of the biggest tips we have if you're looking to install some Overfenders on your car. Again, wheel, tire, suspension, fitmentindustries.com. If you have any other questions or want to see us do a guide on something else, drop it down in the comments section below. But I'm Giles from Fitment Industries. We'll see you later.